Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off, as always, with a quick sound check. Make sure your speakers aren't up too high. Wonderful. So what have we got for you this week? Well, this week wasn't the most exciting for me, let me tell you, but it was doing a whole bunch of very necessary work. I have been working on the new item spawner for H3 here, which is much needed. Our baby back here, it's served us well for a while, but an item spawner that shows 10 items at a time is not so good for a game that has a lot of objects in it. How many, you may ask? Well, in auditing the metadata for the game, I found out stuffed into this little 10 icons at a time sucker, there are 1,287 item spawner entries. Yikes. So, how to deal with this? Well, I have been working on a new interface, which I have over to the left here. This is not done, I should let you know, and some of the buttons aren't like drawing correctly, like this is just drawing as a straight gray list here. These should look like buttons. They don't yet. These plus and minus buttons will be contextual. I'm still just laying things out, but this should give you an idea of what is going to be replacing it. The way this is going to work is that we're going to have sort of top pages at the top here: firearms, magazines, attachments, tools, melee, toys, vault, and loadout. I am still playing around with some of those top things. Vault and loadout may be combined just into vault, into one thing, because I realize there might be another category I want to throw in here tied specifically just to targets, or those may go under toys. I'm still figuring out the sorting category, but the important thing is that essentially your state and settings on these pages will be saved relative to each other. So if you're, say, looking for a specific firearm, you'll be able to say, you know, look at various groups of tags that we have here, add tags to that list. I just have here in this mock-up, I really like 9mm. It will show you a list of those objects that adhere to all of those tags. You'll be able to select one of them and have it pop up here, or just roll over this list with the laser pointer, just to see a quick on hover. But then you'll be able to just say, go to compatible magazines, or go to compatible attachments. And what that will essentially do is generate a relevant tag search for that category of thing on its specific page and jump you over to that page. But it will save your spot here on firearms. So if you go over there, you get your magazine, you spawn it, you go back to the gun, click on go to compatible attachments, grab some attachments, and then go right back to the gun if that's where you want. And I'm probably actually going to fill in this area here with some basic instructions for use for that given item, so that they're located right here conveniently. So yeah, so that's the previous and next page, which, as I said, will be functional buttons. Once I get this, UIs always are super broken in the middle of making them, and then there's just lots of futzy wiring work. But I wanted to make sure that the layout was what I wanted before I actually committed to doing the days and days and days of just terrible wiring together work. So yeah, so there is your little preview. In addition, you might have noticed, as I've been sort of pointing around on this, that the pointer is a little smoother looking than it was before. And that's because I have been playing around with the filtering of your pointing and grab rays. So you'll notice I can just hold this sort of close to my chest here. And even at this distance, in fact, let's see, 2 meters away, that's about the max distance, I can still easily hold on a specific small button with this grab ray at this distance, because it's now being pretty aggressively filtered. I realized it, especially as I was beginning to do smaller buttons on this, that even, you know, Lighthouse track controllers are pretty darn stable, and even then a bunch of the smaller buttons were a little bit of a pain, and I know a lot of folks are using HMDs with tracking that is significantly more jittery, and so I have attempted to filter that out, and I may actually put in options in the options menu that allows you to choose the intensity of that filtering. As you can see here, if I move the controller rapidly, the ray detaches quite a bit from the point because it is attempting to stabilize it. That's always what you're sort of trading anytime you filter something, is sort of temporal accuracy for temporal stability. So, but what you'll notice is that even if I'm, say, playing with a bunch of rounds on the ground like so, I can now, with the grab ray, significantly more easily pick up specific ones that I want. Like so. Obviously, don't throw cartridges around on the ground like this, kids. It's not safe. But, yep. But yeah, just to give you an idea of, whoops, accidentally, that should not have arm swinger. Yeah, that's way too, I need to bias that more to an upward direction. That is not good. But hey, we got our arm swinger jump out of the way for the week. So yeah, so that is what I'm working on. Because I've made a bunch of, I sort of realized with the sort of filtration of just these points, I was like, that's nice. But I'm actually going to look into seeing if it's possible to sort of go back and actually apply some of that filtration to other aspects of the hands, including holding objects. It would be a lot of rewiring because I'm a dingus and I'm just manually referencing a lot of the transform points on the hands all over the game's code base. On one more arm swinger jump for good luck there. But I'm going to look into it because I have seen, especially as there's been an uptick of Quest 2 users, which is not the most stable controller tracking on the planet in a lot of lighting situations and such, or the way that folks are playing it, involving streaming especially, that I'm going to see what I can do about getting some more filtration in the hands for folks who want it. And of course, it'll be, for those of you who still want that instantaneous per pixel movement, all of this will be toggleable. So yeah. Anywho, that's all I've got to show for you this week in VR. Let's jump out for one more sec. Yo! So, just a couple more things about the item spawner, as I've gotten far enough along now with a bunch of the sort of design and planning that I'm doing involving like metadata, that I've been able to make some sort of final decisions on some things. First off, for those of you who do modding work, I've decided I'm not going to replace the existing item spawner ID system. I'm simply going to add to it. So it's going to get a whole bunch of extra metadata, extra tags, but all of the original data forms will function in one, pieces will work in one way or another. I decided to do this in part, as I mentioned earlier, realizing like there's over 1,200 item spawner IDs, and I did not want to have to remake all of those a second time. And so I have decided not to. I'm just going to glom some more data on and ignore the data that is not relevant that exists on them already. Beyond that, the thing that I want to cover is I do not yet know when I'm going to be able to push an alpha for this. I would like to do it, obviously, to get it into your folks' hands to test, and obviously so we can get back to some door hijinks and some new gun hijinks and stuff. But I have to kind of break a bunch of stuff in with my item database to actually get this up and running, because I'm switching over how a couple systems work. Basically, I'm going to like implement the new way that certain types of resources are accessed and loaded that are more patterned to this new item spawner, and then sort of like backport some of that functionality to the old item spawner so it uses the new system, so it's not perma-broken, but that things are more set up for how I'm going to be quickly accessing content with the new item spawner, and with the way that a whole bunch of the sort of new vault stuff is going to be loading and checking the existence of content. And this is just for reliability, this is for speed, I noticed that certain people, especially once they started having dozens or hundreds of vault constructs, certain things were a little slow, and so I need to architect this whole thing, assuming that that's going to happen, so the game just doesn't like shudder for a whole second every time you do certain actions. But yeah, so it's a lot of boring architectural work. I know it's not terribly exciting to watch or hear about, but I'm trying to front load the really terrible to do parts of this instead of putting them off for later, because otherwise I know what will happen is that I will procrastinate. I'll do all the fun stuff first, run out of energy, not want to do the terrible part of it, and then I'll just like prolong this alpha cycle for far too long because I'm just sort of drip feeding at the bad stuff. So it's, I know the next week or two might not be the most interesting in terms of this devlog and what I'm working on, and I'm mainly going to just be showing like, here's the UI and here's it working, yay. But once that's out of the way, I'll be able to focus in a more energetic way on some of the other content that I want to get out in this alpha cycle, and we will have a beautiful new interface to be able to access it. So that will hopefully be a little more informative. And one of the things I didn't show off, but the sort of icon in the upper left along the top bar there will actually include gasp instructions on how to use the item spawner in there. So because I know I tend to rely a little too much sometimes on folks either watching these devlogs or just like trial and erroring their way through absolutely everything. So hopefully this comes out a little bit cleaner in the end, a little more friendly to new users. So that's all I got for this week. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend that is not filled with editing metadata in a big old database, because that is boring, but that is what my weekend will be. So wish you all the best. Peace.